My name is Emma Collins, 32, and I don't rattle easily. But that night, I did. At dinner, my mother set down a smile that didn't match her eyes, and my sister kept tapping her phone like she was timing a performance. Then, the punchline: my emergency fund was used, and I was expected to cover the taxes because I was the responsible one. I did not raise my voice. I did not ask permission. I looked at the empty words hanging over the table and said, "Okay." I had planned for the day someone would try to turn me into an ATM with a heartbeat. One account was a decoy with $1 and a tripwire. The real savings lived where nobody in that room could reach it. They thought they had emptied me. They thought the bill for their mess would land in my lap. I kept my face neutral, nodded at the right moments, and let them believe the theater was working. When I stood to leave, my sister slid a folder across the table like it was a favor. It wasn't. It was a demand dressed up as family. "You'll take care of this by Friday," she said. My mother added, "You'll understand when you calm down." I was calm. Calm enough to memorize the phrasing. Calm enough to notice the numbers. Calm enough to feel a tiny vibration in my pocket as a red alert lit my phone. Unauthorized access. Wrong portal. Wrong time. Wrong person to underestimate. I smiled once, small and sharp. "Enjoy dessert," I said. I already did. If real-world family drama and hard boundaries matter to you, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and share your take. Your voice helps this story reach the people who need it. The next morning moved with a clarity Emma hadn't felt in years. She woke before sunrise, checked the silent apartment, and reached for her phone. The red alert dashboard glowed with two warnings stacked on top of each other, one for the unauthorized login she caught at dinner, and a second one time-stamped at 3 in the morning. Someone had tried again. Someone who thought persistence could wear her down. Emma opened the details, and the screen showed what she expected: the decoy tax portal, the same outdated personal information she had intentionally left behind, and the balance that had never changed: $1. A single dollar she kept as a tripwire. Nothing else existed there. Meanwhile, her real savings lived in a separate institution under a passphrase she hadn't written anywhere, spoken to anyone, or used in any other context. She closed the alert, then opened the county tax page. A new message sat at the top, a request for authorization to act as filer submitted using her name. Emma studied the document carefully. Wrong phrasing, wrong formatting, wrong timing. Whoever submitted it knew just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to mimic her. That narrowed the pool down to exactly 3 people, and all of them shared her blood. She grabbed her notebook and wrote a clean list: bank, freeze access, taxes, notify county, credit, lock all bureaus. Her handwriting stayed steady, but her pulse climbed the longer she reviewed the logs. One IP address kept showing up. One location. One pattern. She didn't need to guess. Intent was written in every attempt. She shut the notebook, grabbed her keys, and stepped into the cold air. She wasn't angry. She was methodical. Anger clouded judgment. Precision protected futures. On the walk to her car, her phone buzzed again. A third alert. Another attempt to reach the decoy. Whoever was doing it wasn't stopping. She opened the notification, tapped into the details, and stared at the new message stamped across the top. A new filing authorization has been submitted. Someone was escalating. Emma locked her jaw, slid the phone into her coat pocket, and started the engine. They thought she was cornered. They thought she would panic. They thought her silence meant surrender. They had no idea they had just triggered the part of her she kept hidden for moments, exactly like this. She shifted into drive eyes focused posture, steady. Today she would start closing every door they tried to pry open. And when the last one shut, they would finally understand whose information they had chosen to play with. Emma left her apartment early, wanting to reach the State Street branch before the morning rush. She parked, took a steady breath, and walked through the glass doors with the kind of calm that came only when she already knew her next 10 moves. A banker named Ms. Patel greeted her at the front desk, offered a seat, and pulled up her profile. Emma handed over the printed tax notice, the screenshots, and the red alert activity logs. Ms. Patel read each page with a focus that told Emma she wasn't overreacting. When she finished, she folded her hands and asked Emma to explain everything from the beginning. Emma kept it concise: the unauthorized attempts, the false authorization to pay request, and the activity tied to her outdated information. Ms. Patel nodded slowly. "We'll handle this step by step," she said, opening a new secure window on her screen. The first step was shutting down the bait account entirely. With Emma's confirmation, Ms. Patel closed the account, wiped old security questions, and replaced the access phrase with a randomized passphrase Emma wrote down in a sealed envelope. None of it reflected anything from her real life. No birthdays, no pets, no addresses. Next was the credit freeze. Emma worked with Ms. Patel to contact the 3 national credit bureaus. Each call required identity verification, and each bureau confirmed the freeze within minutes. As the final confirmation email arrived, Emma felt the shift, like she had pulled every window shut before a storm. After the freeze was processed, Ms. Patel dug deeper and accessed the login history associated with Emma's old account. She turned the monitor slightly so Emma could see the list of log entries. Some attempts came from the expected local servers, but several others, all tied to failed verification attempts, originated from a residential IP address. Ms. Patel zoomed in on the line item and read the address out loud. It didn't belong to Emma. It belonged to Shannon and Trevor. Emma didn't blink. She had suspected it, but suspicion was one thing. Confirmation was another. Ms. Patel clicked into the profile again and printed the full activity record for Emma to keep. "You did the right thing by coming in," she said, sliding the folder across the desk. "And you acted fast." Emma placed the papers into her bag, making sure each page lay flat. Her heartbeat stayed level even as the evidence stacked higher. On her way to the exit, she paused when Ms. Patel called her name. There was something different in her tone, heavier, more deliberate. Emma turned. Ms. Patel walked closer, lowered her voice, and held out one last printed sheet. "This wasn't a mistake," she said. "Someone used your information on purpose." Emma accepted the paper, nodded once, and stepped back into the sunlight. She didn't need anger. She had proof. By late afternoon, Emma's phone rang nonstop. She placed it face down on the counter, letting each call buzz out until voicemail took over. 5 missed calls turned to 8, then 10. When the 11th one arrived, she finally checked the caller ID. It was her mother, then her sister, then both at once in a group call. Emma ignored each attempt, pouring herself a glass of water as the screen kept lighting up with their names. A moment later, her phone vibrated again. This time, it was a voicemail transcribed automatically. Denise's voice appeared in shaky lines of text. "Sweetheart, pick up. You're tearing this family apart." Emma deleted it without opening the audio. Minutes later, another call came from Shannon. Emma didn't need to hear her tone to know it would be sharp. The transcript confirmed it. "You're the only one with stable income. You should be helping Emma. Stop acting like you're above us." Before Emma could even lock her phone, a third transcript arrived, this one from Trevor. His message carried the arrogance he wore like a second skin. "A grown man," he paused, then corrected himself. "A grown woman in this family should know responsibility. You're supposed to cover this. That's how households work." Emma scoffed quietly. Trevor loved talking about responsibility as long as someone else carried it. The apartment grew quiet again until the doorbell camera chimed. Emma froze mid-step, glanced at the monitor mounted near the hallway, and tapped the live feed. Trevor stood at her door. Hoodie cap, sunglasses, trying to look casual, but his posture screamed entitlement. He lifted a folded paper toward the camera as if making a grand entrance. "Open up, Emma," he said, leaning closer. "We have your notice. You need to sign it." Emma pressed the mic button. Her voice stayed calm. "Leave." Trevor smirked. If you ignore this, the county will come after all of us. You know that, right? Emma didn't answer. She watched him shift from feigned confidence to irritation. You think you're too good to handle this, fine, he said. Then I'll make sure you can't pretend you didn't see it. He pushed the paper against the lens, poor formatting, wrong seal, the same sloppy forgery style she'd already seen twice. Emma kept recording. Trevor stepped back and looked around the hallway as if checking whether anyone was watching. He didn't realize the camera captured audio as well as video. Unbelievable, he muttered, pulling the folded notice open. She thinks she can throw us away like trash. He bent down, shoved the forged document into the narrow gap beneath the door, and jabbed it deeper with 2 fingers. There. Now she can't deny anything. Emma watched without expression. The lens caught every word, every movement, every angle. Trevor tapped the door once, muttered something under his breath, and walked away, unaware that the evidence he had just provided was clearer than anything Emma could have asked for. 2 days passed before the next shift in the situation revealed itself. Emma was at her desk reviewing a project outline when her phone lit up with a message from an unfamiliar number. She ignored it at first, assuming it was another attempt from her family using a different phone. But the preview text caught her eye, canceling staging service effective immediately. She opened the full message. It was written by one of Shannon's clients, accidentally sent to Emma's number instead of Shannon's. The client explained that rumors about unresolved tax issues had made them uncomfortable moving forward. Emma sat back in her chair. She hadn't spoken to anyone. She hadn't shared anything. The fallout had begun on its own. A second notification arrived, this time a screenshot sent by a mutual acquaintance. The caption read, "Thought you should see this." The image showed Trevor's profile on his brokerage internal portal with a red banner across the top, MLS access suspended pending review. Emma zoomed into the screenshot. Trevor relied on that access to show homes and manage listings. Without it, he couldn't work. She placed her phone down and returned to her laptop, continuing her day as though nothing had happened. By late afternoon, another message came, this time from her mother. It was short, almost clipped. "Everything is falling apart. I don't know what to do." Emma didn't answer. She could picture the exact kitchen counter where Denise stood while typing at hands, shaking but refusing to acknowledge how the situation had spiraled. Denise always acted like consequences were random storms, never the result of her own choices. The following morning, Emma checked her mailbox in the lobby. A thick envelope sat on top, stamped with the Salt Lake County seal. She carried it upstairs, opened it carefully, and read through the contents. It was a formal lien warning addressed to Shannon and Trevor's home, notifying them that failure to resolve the delinquent balance would result in a recorded lien and additional penalties. The letter didn't mention Emma at all. Her name wasn't on any unpaid amount. She wasn't a co-signer. She wasn't legally tied to their debt. She exhaled slowly as she folded the notice back into the envelope. Another message arrived, not from her family, but from an old co-worker who had once worked with Denise. The text was brief. "Your mom got written up today. Thought you'd want to know." Emma didn't respond. She knew Denise wouldn't be fired. Employers rarely took drastic measures immediately, but a formal warning meant her mother's behavior had begun affecting her job, or perhaps her distractions had been noticed by management. Emma set her phone aside and made herself a quiet dinner. She didn't celebrate. She didn't feel triumphant. What she felt was confirmation. Every consequence unfolding now came from actions they had chosen long before she stopped answering their calls. She finished eating, washed her plate, and sat at her dining table with the lien notice beside her. The world had a way of arranging its own accountability, she thought. And for once, she didn't have to explain that to anyone. 3 days later, as Emma was heading out for a morning grocery run, she saw 3 figures standing in the parking lot near her building. Her steps slowed. Denise was in front, wringing her hands. Shannon hovered behind her, tense and restless, and Trevor stood with his arms crossed like someone waiting to deliver a verdict. Emma continued walking toward her car without acknowledging them, but Denise rushed forward. "Emma," she said, voice thin. "We need to talk. Please. Just one conversation." Emma opened her car door, set her bag inside, then turned. "Why are you here?" Denise swallowed. We're asking for help. Just this once." Shannon cut in sharply, unable to keep the frustration out of her voice. "If our house gets taken, that's on you." "You know that, right?" Trevor added. "I got suspended because of all this mess. You could fix it in a day if you stop being stubborn." Emma let the words pass through her without reacting. She locked her car, walked around to the passenger side, and opened the dashboard compartment where she had stored a small folder. She returned to them with the folder in hand. "You drove here," she said evenly, "so you can walk back with facts." She opened the folder and held up the first page, a printed image captured by her doorbell camera. Trevor's face filled the frame mid-sentence, the forged document in his hand. Trevor's confidence faltered. "That doesn't mean anything," he muttered. Emma ignored him and moved to the second page, the login location records from the bank, listing the residential IP address tied to each attempt. Shannon's posture stiffened. "Where did you get that?" she asked. Emma didn't answer. She simply turned to the third document, the timestamps of the false tax authorization forms, each filed within minutes of messages sent from their phones. Denise's eyes began to water. "We didn't think it would go this far," she whispered. "We just needed help." Emma closed the folder calmly. "You didn't ask for help," she said. "You used my information without permission." Trevor stepped forward. "We're family. Families do things to survive." Emma lifted her gaze to meet his. "Family doesn't steal from each other." Shannon's voice wavered, but she still tried one last angle. "If the county takes our house, where do you expect us to go?" Emma refused the guilt. "That's not my decision," she said. "It's the result of your choices." Denise reached out a trembling hand as if trying to touch Emma's arm, but Emma stepped back. "Please," Denise murmured. "You're our only chance." Emma took a slow breath. Her decision was already made. The boundary had existed long before they showed up here. "From now on," she said, voice steady and final, "do not contact me unless it's through legal channels." Denise froze as if someone had shut a door in her face. Shannon's expression collapsed into disbelief. Trevor exhaled angrily, but he stayed silent. Emma placed the folder under her arm, got into her car, and closed the door without another word. Their voices blended into the background as she drove away. The week moved quietly, almost too quietly. Emma focused on work, answered emails, and settled into a routine that felt steady for the first time in months. One morning, as she logged into her office computer, a new email notification appeared at the top of her inbox. The sender line made her pause. Salt Lake County Treasurer's Office. She opened it immediately. The message was brief, formal, and unmistakably final. It confirmed that a lien had now been officially recorded against Shannon and Trevor's property. The amounts had increased because of penalties added after the missed deadlines, and the county listed a strict repayment schedule that left no room for negotiation. Emma read every line twice, then archived the message. None of it required her involvement. During lunch, she stepped outside for fresh air. Her phone buzzed with messages from coworkers' weekend plans and a reminder from a subscription service, but nothing from her family. For the first time, silence felt like relief, rather than tension. In the late afternoon, another update arrived, this time forwarded by a friend who worked in the local real estate network. The screenshot showed Trevor's status on the brokerage portal: extended suspension pending investigation. It wasn't temporary anymore. He wouldn't be showing homes anytime soon, maybe not for months. Emma locked her phone and resumed her workday, choosing not to linger on the consequences unfolding around them. The next morning, she stopped by the postal office she had recently registered with. A small stack of mail sat in her assigned P.O. box. One envelope carried her name for legitimate business. The rest were junk flyers, but at the very bottom was a large envelope with a deep red stamp. Emma turned it over. It wasn't addressed to her, it had been misdelivered into her box. The addressee line read, Shannon and Trevor Coleman. The return address belonged to Salt Lake County Collections. Emma hesitated only long enough to confirm it was not hers. She returned the envelope to the front desk, informing the clerk it had been placed in her box by mistake. She didn't open it. She didn't want to. Boundary meant boundary. When she returned home, she made herself dinner, let music play softly in the background, and reviewed a few documents for work. Her days had become calmer, more controlled. But late in the evening, her phone buzzed once more, this time with a text from a former neighbor of Shannon's. The message was short. County truck stopped by their place today. Looked serious. Emma set the phone face down without replying. She finished her tea, washed her cup, and turned off the lights in the kitchen. Her apartment was quiet, organized, and wholly hers. Every step she took in this space felt intentional, not reactive. Just before bed, she checked her mailbox app. A digital scan of incoming mail had been added at the last second. The picture showed a thick white envelope with the Salt Lake County seal and a bold heading visible even through the preview window: notice of impending property sale due to delinquent taxes. Emma locked her phone and turned off the screen. The county had spoken. Their time was running out. A few days later, as the afternoon sun dipped behind the rooftops of Mill Creek, Emma's phone vibrated with a call she didn't expect. She glanced at the screen. Denise. She let it ring once, twice, 3 times before answering. Not because she owed the conversation anything, but because she wanted it to end on her terms. Her mother's voice came through in fragments, breathless and brittle. Emma? Everything is gone. We lost the house. They put the notice on the door this morning. Her words cracked, falling apart as she spoke. Your sister is staying with a friend. Trevor is furious. I don't know where to go. Emma held the phone loosely. I'm sorry that happened, she said, her tone steady and flat. But it was never my debt. Denise sniffed, trying to steady herself. We're family. Families don't let each other fall like this. Families don't take from each other, Emma replied. You crossed that line long before any lien arrived. There was a long silence on the other end, followed by a shaky exhale. Your sister says, you're not part of this family anymore. Emma closed her eyes briefly, not in sadness but in clarity. She's right, she said. I'm not. The words landed with finality, no anger, no trembling, no hesitation, just truth. Denise tried again, her voice slipping into an old familiar pleading. Please, just talk to her. Help us find a way out of this. Emma shook her head even though no one could see her. Don't call again, she said. Not unless it's through legal channels. Before Denise could respond, Emma ended the call. She placed the phone on the counter, took a quiet breath, and looked around her new townhome in Mill Creek. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting soft lines across the living room floor. The space was small but peaceful, filled only with things she chose: no stress, no demands, no hands reaching into her accounts. She spent the next hour unpacking the last of her boxes: a stack of books, a framed photo from her college graduation, and a simple ceramic mug she'd bought for the new chapter. When she placed it on the kitchen shelf, a sense of calm washed over her. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't triumphant. It was stable, something she had built entirely on her own. Emma sat on the couch and allowed herself a moment. She didn't feel victorious about what happened to her family. She felt released, free from obligations she never agreed to, free from people who saw her as a resource instead of a daughter or sister, free from the noise of a household that demanded loyalty but never practiced it. She had learned something that took her years to understand. Boundaries don't break families. They reveal who was breaking the family long before. As evening settled in, she picked up her phone, this time not for a call, but to record a short message for the viewers who had listened to her story. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. I truly appreciate your time. If you enjoy family drama stories, revenge stories, or real life lessons about boundaries and self worth, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. I value every single viewer who joins me here.